All right, close enough. Let's get started. So, good morning, everyone. My name is Derek Martin. I am a cloud solution architect in Azure infrastructure, focus on IaaS networking and security. I have 5 kids under the age of 10, and they're all crazy. There's a little picture of them. And the best part about me, I bought Bitcoin at 50. That's why I like this stuff. Woo-hoo-hoo! So far, the first 3 of college is paid for. You can always find me on Twitter. I comment about all manner of things. I try to stay away from politics, although sometimes I just can't help myself. And today, we are going to be talking about the business use cases of blockchain. First, what is it? Well, if you want to send me some Bitcoin, go for it. Quick, what is blockchain? Well, first, let me ask you, how many people know what a blockchain is? Okay, this is good. So how many of you know then a little bit about Bitcoin? How many of you guys know about Ethereum? Excellent. You all have been paying attention. I like this. For the about roughly half of you that did not raise your hand, quick primer so I don't get too crazy, too fast. Let's talk a little bit about what a blockchain is, and then we'll dive into the business side of it. First and foremost, in a blockchain, we have these concepts of blocks and transactions. Think of them as like swiping your Visa card. These transactions go into this block until the block is full, and then the block goes on out to all of the nodes, and the nodes process them. It's all mathematically based. I'm not going to bore you with SHA-3 or SHA-256. But the idea behind the blockchain is that it is immutable. Once it's written in, it can never be unwritten or changed. And so I want you to think about those things as we talk about the business use cases, because it will immediately disqualify a large number of things that you might be thinking, ooh, I want blockchain. And my job, working within the blockchain extended team at Microsoft, is to help validate customers' desires to go into blockchain. And I have spent the last 8 months or so flying around the country talking to CIOs that saw this thing called blockchain in a magazine in an airport and said, ooh, we want blockchain. But the idea behind it takes a little bit of thinking ahead, because not everything fits well in there. First and foremost, the thing that I think about when I think about blockchain and how it's different is all of these nodes. I'm going to point at one of the screens here, maybe you can see it. All of these nodes, this is kind of a bad example, that's actually a mesh, they all participate equally. And so you're not just waiting on one node to confirm a transaction has gone through and is valid, you're waiting on all of them. Every time, if you're in a Bitcoin world, every time a transaction, somebody sends me some Bitcoin, right there, yeah. Every time somebody sends me some Bitcoin, it could take hours for that to show up in my wallet. And there's all kinds of fun news about how people are going to make it faster and all of these things. That's all great. Over in the Ethereum world, they use a little bit different of a technology, and things move a little bit faster. But still, everything has to go through all of the nodes. So think, are any developers in here? Developers? A couple of you? You write a function. Let's say it's a function that sends proof that I own something. Let's forget about money for a minute, but it's proof that I own something. And I want to write that state to the Ethereum blockchain. And let's also say that to do that, I have to calculate a whole bunch of math. I'm going to deduct from my escrow account. I'm going to send some tax money off to this place. It's the receipt or the transaction history of me owning something. And then let's further say that every time a node processes that transaction, it takes 2 or 3 minutes per node for all of that math to get done. Now multiply that by 7, 10 million nodes, and remember that they all have to process that transaction before it's valid. Okay, so how do we get from that to a business world? Where'd my thing go? Go. Well, we have to think about it a little bit differently. A centralized system like a database, plain old SQL Server, running in a container on Linux, which still blows my mind. SQL Server, you write all of your transactions into a single database. Even if it's a clustered database, the time it takes for a transaction to commit to that database is measured in milliseconds or less. Great. In a blockchain system, everything is going to get distributed. Now, this is good and bad. And a lot of the technology that Microsoft is working on is to figure out how to make this trustless or permissionless concept faster. And so we'll talk about things like oracles and sidechain, not Oracle like the red evil company that makes a bad database, but other things. Sorry, Larry. And these are things that help us to, number one, secure even beyond this trustless model, because in a business case, you're not going to put your business application out on the public Ethereum network. Don't do that. That's not what it's for. That's for sending me money. But you might have a business application that you want to secure with the blockchain, which is a great piece of technology, but that's not the way that you want to go about doing it. You don't want to think about it as a centralized system, and you don't want to think about it as, we're going to put this into the big public Ethereum blockchain. Not a great idea, and we'll talk about why. So what does the blockchain architecture look like? Well, have a little Azure. It's not hard. This is a good example of one of the architectures that we did for a proof of concept using the full Microsoft stack with Lexington and some of the alphabets for Cocoa that we talked about a couple of weeks ago with Mark Rusinovich. And the idea is that even in your organization, blockchains still have to be secured. It is not a panacea. It's not going to solve all your world's troubles. If you have a SQL database, let's say it's a 2-node cluster, how many servers do you have to manage? 2. Now let's say you want to build something in a blockchain, and let's further say that you don't want anybody else to see it. It's a blockchain just for your company. Don't know why you would do that, but you could. How many servers do you think that might take? Minimum 5. So now you've compounded IT ops. You've compounded their problems. So what's the value? Well, there's a lot of value if that conversation extends to a B2B transaction. So let's talk about who's doing what out in that marketplace. So let's look at the industry here a little bit. First, some incentive. Last year, Gartner tells us that people spent $226 million in value on blockchain projects. By 2030, that's going to be around $3 trillion. So there is a market incentive to get this technology in our heads. It is a sea change. It is not like running regular servers, but that's okay, because there's $3 trillion up for grabs. But there's certainly been a little bit of a hype. Blockchain from about a year ago, oh, everybody's screaming, and then we go, wee, down to the bottom. Some of the challenges to the concepts around blockchain is corporate muscle memory. It is not the same to write an application for, a 3-tier or an N-tier web app, ASP.NET, a middle tier to do your processing, a database doing the back end. It's not the same. In fact, right now, the tooling available for creating applications on blockchain are incredibly diverse. Anybody ever played with Truffle or Geth or Node, Node 3 or WebJet or Tyrion or Chain or Corda? And I've only named like 5 there. There are hundreds of startups, which makes it really exciting, but it makes it really hard to figure out, well, what are you doing? And that's where Microsoft is coming to the table to try and help with that tooling. Technological maturity. Some of you may have paid attention to blockchain stuff in the news. A couple of months ago, there was, or I guess it was a year ago now, there was the DAO hack where, hey, we're going to create this decentralized autonomous organization. It sounds very United Nations-y. Hey, everybody, give me your money. And then it got hacked. Well, duh. It was brand new. And so there is a maturity that has to happen in these technologies, and they're getting there. Enterprise needs. Bitcoin and the way that it was structured, the Bitcoin technology was structured not thinking about business enterprise. It was structured thinking about how do I store value. Its original design and purpose is to be a holder of value, a coin, right? That's why a transaction in Bitcoin is only 53 bytes. 53 bytes. You can't put a whole lot of data in there. Now, they're doing some stuff to make it scale a little bit better. Ethereum, on the other hand, was designed with this concept of every node is a virtual machine, and inside that virtual machine, we've got all of these different operations that you can do, add, subtract. It's very assembly level. And it was designed to do business applications. So Microsoft, in addition to some of the Bitcoin-y things and some other technologies around derivatives of Ethereum, we have hitched our horse to the concept of Ethereum, to the technology of Ethereum. And so it'll be important for you to go learn in the technological side, go learn about that technology. Not about Ethereum, the public chain that also holds value. Those coins are worth, $400 or so per coin. Go buy some. But about what you can do with that Ethereum virtual machine and sharing those business-to-business transactions. All right, we'll keep going here. Yep, that's all I want to talk about. So where are we? Last year it was you get a coin, everybody gets a coin, and there's initial coin offerings flying everywhere, and people are saying, yay, I'm rich. Well, that's great. It's an interesting concept that people are turning to coin offerings more than they're turning to venture capitalism right now. Startups are saying, well, instead of going down the tried and true venture capitalist path, we're going to start up our company and we're going to bootstrap this whole thing by offering a coin. Can anybody spell bubble? I feel it coming. But by this year, companies are starting to get into this. I was at my hotel room the night before last, and I'm watching the new Star Trek episode that came out on CBS All Access, and the very first commercial was a commercial about blockchain. It was from IBM, bless their hearts. Their stuff doesn't actually work, but man, can they market good. But we're starting to think about addressing large-scale business problems, particularly around enterprises needing to do sovereign identity. So one of Microsoft's current initiatives is working with the United Nations around sovereign identity. The idea is to cut down on human trafficking. You can cut down on human trafficking if you can tell who someone is, indisputably. That's pretty cool. That's actually how I got involved in blockchain, that's a cool idea. We're also doing it, I've got a couple of neat slides. We'll talk about some of the other POCs that have been going on and some of the successful rollouts here in just a little bit. But we've come to this model of there are certain key things where blockchain at the moment is good. And here they are. Financial. This makes sense. Blockchains can store value. They do good at that because they store value and they can't be hacked. They are, by definition, immutable. And well, Derek, how did the DAO get hacked if it's immutable? Well, having an immutable transaction, it's just like a ledger. Does anybody still have nightmares from microeconomics back in college? I got a D in that class and threw myself a kegger. It was awesome. Blockchain is a ledger. You add stuff to an account, you subtract stuff to an account, and at the end, it should both equal. So it doesn't mean that you can't run away with all the coins, but it makes perfect sense to put things into a ledger. So financial institutions have great incentives. There are multiple governments, mostly in the Eurozone, that are looking at blockchain for one, identity, but also a national bank, replacing the actual currency. There are 3 governments, go look them up, that are actually, they're small, but it's a very, very cool idea. Retail and manufacturing, great concepts here around validating, we'll do produce, validating that tomato, I'm still thinking about the IBM commercial, that tomato that grew out on a farm is able to be tracked from point A to I buy it in the store. How do they do that? Well, it's IoT anchoring temperature data in the store or on the truck so that when the buyer says, okay, I want this pallet of tomatoes, you scan a barcode and it spits out the proof, mathematically proven, that the tomatoes never went above certain degrees in the truck, or that they did. Big chicken farm out in Arkansas doing something similar with chicken, being able to track retail products. Now those are 2 food items, but it doesn't take much to say, what about other stuff? What about I'm building buildings? How do I track the quality control of that steel beam that just showed up? And that the entire process of manufacturing is tracked and anchored to the blockchain. Very cool stuff. Healthcare makes great sense. Just talked to somebody a little while ago, I don't know where they went, about healthcare. Being able to always have access to your healthcare records and being able to grant people access to it and revoke persons' access from your healthcare records and have that data always anchored, encrypted, and protected on the blockchain. Pretty cool. I like it. And then government. We were talking about that earlier, about self-sovereign identity, or about the concept of government-issued identity. Wouldn't it be nice if we didn't have to go sit in the DMV anymore? Wouldn't that just be great? For those of you not from America, the DMV is like the worst circle of hell that you could possibly imagine. But there are certainly places where blockchain bad. Blockchain no good. Business incompatibility. If you think that you want to build a blockchain just for your own company, it's not going to have anything to do with business to business or business to consumer. Why? Why would you do that? That's a lot of headache. Technical incompatibility. Blockchain is not a database. Can everybody say that with me? Blockchain is not a database. You're not going to get millions of transactions per second at the moment into a blockchain. Don't do it, don't try it. It will be gross. And then you'll be wondering, well, I just spent $800,000 on a POC and I'm only getting 30 transactions per second. I've been in those POCs and they all look at you, me, they're like, Microsoft, what do you mean? This doesn't work. Well, told you. Blockchain is not a database. Another bad example is the CIO, I go back to the poor CIO saying, we want blockchain, yay! And the IT managers call in Microsoft and they're like, okay, here's what we've come up with. We want to do this process in blockchain. We just need you to change 4 or 5 little bitty fundamental aspects around blockchain, like, I don't know, syncing nodes. If you have to change what a blockchain does to fit your business case, stop. For the last 9 months, I already told you, I've been flying around the world talking to companies about this. I have come up with all kinds of cool, great ideas around where blockchain is not good. But I've come up with some really awesome places where it is good. Come on, not good. So business incompatibility, technical incompatibility, sad face. So what are we doing? Our vision is to accelerate blockchain deployment. Microsoft, from the CTO, Mark Russinovich, on down, and I was a fly on the wall. I didn't actually get to say anything, but I was a fly on the wall in a meeting with Satya, and he said to Mark and everybody else after they gave him the presentation round, we want to invest resources, particularly in Azure, and we want to do all of these things with blockchain and da-da-da. And Satya's exact words were, don't it up. Good idea. So we want to accelerate how you get, what's with my graphics? There we go. I'm missing a piece. Oh well. We want to accelerate how you go from idea to out in the real world. Our competitors in the blockchain space, mostly the good marketing team over at IBM, and there are others, but our competitors in the blockchain space, they want you to spend millions on proofs of concept. We'll get in there, we'll spend a couple of months, we'll design some things, we'll put Watson all over it, we'll do some other stuff. I'm sorry, I should really stop messing with them. Our approach is very, very different, and I'll talk to you about Project Lexington here in just a second. Our approach is very, very different. I want to POC your blockchain project in 2 days. In 2 days, if I can't prove that it will work or not work, it probably won't work. But how do we do that? First, we start with the platform. You all know that Microsoft is all Azure all the time. We even put out a new logo yesterday. Very excited about our new logo. All Azure. Why? Because we can rapidly provision enormous blockchain systems in Azure in seconds. You can do that right now. You go out to the Azure Marketplace, you type in the word blockchain, and it will show you hundreds of templates. You just click, blockchain. Yay! It's not hard. You can be up and running in under 5 minutes with a blockchain. Now, you just get this web page that shows an address. Good luck doing stuff with it, but that's what it's for. But we want to rapidly deploy that infrastructure, the ledgers in the network, and the trustless, permissionless model, so that then you can go out to your partner company, your B2B transaction, go out to your partner company and say, here's my junk that you have to join my blockchain. Very, very straightforward. Integration. Microsoft's story about blockchain is so much tied to integration, it's comical. We already have stuff in the Office marketplace to anchor documents to the public blockchain. You can go download an add-in right now and anchor your documents in the public blockchain. Why would you do that? Why would you anchor a document in the public blockchain? Well, we have several really cool partners, DocuSign and Adobe, and they're all over this. Why? Because I can mathematically prove beyond a reasonable doubt that that document, once anchored to the blockchain, has never, ever, ever been changed. Cool. So integration with Office, integration with your line of business applications like SAP, and then be able to rapidly deploy end-to-end scenarios. A couple of weeks ago, we announced this new thing called Cocoa. It's the coolest buzzword that I think we've come up with in a while. We love Cocoa. Now, Cocoa is, actually, did anybody see Russinovich's talk about this a couple of weeks ago? We had a big event. It was broadcast on the internet. Okay, 2 whole people. Good. I'm going to talk about it then. So what we're doing is we've teamed up with Intel, and this is already being deployed into the fleet in Azure. This is our high-trust computing environment. We had a big announcement just last week from Azure around a new SKU, and Corey Sanders talked a little bit about it yesterday. It's a new SKU of VM that protects the application running in the virtual machine from even the administrators. The idea is that the application runs on the hardware chip itself, and the hardware chip itself is anchored by a chain of trust to the motherboard, to the BIOS, to the CPU, to the memory chip, to the network interface, basically proving beyond any possible cryptographic doubt that, and that's what this graphic is attempting to show, there's some math in there, that that application executed correctly and that it only executed on the device that it was supposed to execute on. And not only did no one see it or touch it or any of that other mess, it is proven to exist only in that state. Wicked cool security stuff. Now, I'm in Azure Information Security, and I looked at this the first time and I was like, huh? Well, the idea is that not only do you not trust your admins, you don't trust Azure, you don't trust Microsoft, you don't trust nobody. Coco is our use case for anchoring blockchain data to that type of processor. It's a couple of other things, but that's the main thing. Inside that completely trustless computing environment, we are going to execute this piece of code. Now, we do some other things. For instance, we have what's called a sidechain, and a lot of this sidechain technology executes inside that enclave. And this allows us to get up to around, I think it was like 16 million transactions per second. It was really, really ridiculous. From blockchain, or from Bitcoin, which is around 30 transactions per second, to several million transactions per second. So good performance increase. Coco acts on encrypted data that can be on the main chain, but it's a bad practice to put encrypted data on the main chain because private keys never get out. People are laughing, but they don't really know what I'm talking about. Did anybody see what happened to poor Adobe last week? They accidentally posted on their blog the private signing key for their email. Oops. That guy had a bad day. Now, I'm not making fun of him. We could do it tomorrow. But the idea that behind Coco is, who cares? If we were to do that, well, it would be bad. But the idea is that it would not compromise your data. Why? Because you don't even trust us. That's where we're going with this. You hold the key, and no one else does. But you have the ability to interact on that chain in an encrypted fashion, and the data never leaves that enclave. A similar or an analogous concept is, has anybody played with the new always encrypted feature in SQL Azure? So cool. The data stays encrypted even while you're doing queries on it. It doesn't get decrypted until after it has arrived at the machine. The driver has it encrypted. It's only when the driver needs to give it to you does it become decrypted. So cool. We use this verifying node in Coco to verify transactions in bunches. That's the technical term, bunches. Once a member node of type N is able to be trusted, then the keys get published and yada, 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 there's all this neat technical stuff. So Project Coco, you're going to see a lot more about this. It's still in its infancy. We literally announced it. It was like 6 weeks after the eggheads in the back came up with the idea. Very, very early on in our development. But if you have something that, the little tinglies in the back of your head are thinking, this could be good for us, come tell us about it. We want to develop this with you guys because it's a really radical new approach to security on the blockchain. Here we go. You remember earlier how I said we want to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that your POC will succeed or fail in 2 days? That is Project Lexington. We want a POC fast, we want to fail fast, and Microsoft's engineering team are the ones that built it. This is a screenshot of us building a ASP.NET web app. Project Lexington is it's a series of templates. We spin these things up in a couple of hours and are able to customize it to fit your business requirements in a couple of hours. So in the span of a day, when we do these POCs with Lexington, in the span of the first day, the boss is able to look and poke on things and say, I kind of get it. You look to our competitors, this level of fit and finish and polish, weeks. Weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. The Lexington engineers are downstairs in the showroom thing. I forget what booth it's in, but just go to the big Microsoft area and there's that front desk and you say, I want to talk to the blockchain people. I'm supposed to be down there this afternoon, so come talk to us. But the idea is fit and finish. This is an asset transfer mechanism. So basically, I have a deed to a house and I want to sell it to you. And I want to anchor it to the blockchain, and so I sell it to you. It goes into an escrow account. I mean, all of these financial interactions, and it's all done on a blockchain. We spin them up in a couple of hours, customize it in a couple of hours, and by day 2, you're running with it. And it's just a PLC, but that's the idea. We want to fail fast, not because we don't love you, but because we know already where it's going to succeed and where it's going to fail. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, yes, good. So, how do you get started? I'm talking really fast because when I showed up this morning, I thought, oh, I've got cool 75 minutes, I'll do some demos. And then I looked at the schedule and they're like, no, it's 45. Crap. So, how do you get started? We have it's called a Microsoft maturity model. And this is the important piece for you if you want to engage us. We want to engage with you. Most companies right now are in level 2. Not necessarily all of them, but many of the companies that we're seeing are in level 2. But the idea is if you have no blockchain experience or no use case, literally the CIO said, I saw in American Way magazine that blockchain is good. I want to have blockchain tomorrow. Well, you see, you start there. So what we're able to do is we're able to come out, we'll come to you. We have engineers all over the world. We will come to you and we will do a briefing on what is blockchain. We'll do strategy and architecture workshops where we take apart your business idea, figure out how it's going to work. We do technical training. So, hey, we've got some Ethereum. Now what do we do? So we have people that are actually embedded with the truffle guys, embedded with the chain guys. We're actually actively contributing to those open source projects. So we can do technical training on how to write code. We will help you set up your lab. And my favorite part, hackathons. These are not full-blown POCs. This is where we just go bang on Web 3. It's a little JavaScript implementation. We go bang on Web 3, and we prove out that that number equals that number, and yay, blockchain. We usually do these in about a day. Doesn't cost you anything. Give us a call. We'll come hang out. Once you get up to level 2, then you kind of know a little bit about what it is that you're doing. You've got a scenario in mind. I talked to a financial institution the other day that does mortgage-backed securities. Remember those things? But the idea behind blockchain for them was, well, let's just put all of the mortgage-backed securities out on the public Ethereum chain so that people see it's like the ultimate in transparency. And I'm thinking, okay. Now, I know nothing about mortgage-backed securities other than it took my 401k down. But this idea of we're going to sell these mortgage-backed securities and all of the relevant data is going to be anchored to the blockchain, and wow, what a cool idea. But you might need some help. We'll be able to come help you. We'll do consulting delivery, even some of those that take it all the way into production, usually 8 to 12 weeks. Level 3, production pilot. You're ready to go kick the tires and put some money into this sucker and maybe make some money. Business-to-business transaction. You've got business arrangements set up. All the legalese is done. And then the level 4, you're in production. This is where we come and help you make it go better. This is when we bring in the Cocos of the world and say, okay, now let's really secure this sucker. Okay, so these are the maturity model of the things that we're wanting to accomplish in these briefings. A little bit more around these POCs and hackathons. We want to innovate with you. We are the first to admit that we do not have this whole thing figured out. We are literally, our engineers are literally embedded with like 50 different startups right now, just trying to figure things out. Where is the big value? We know it's $3 trillion-ish and we would like a piece of that. I'm sure you would too. But call us in, even if it's pie in the sky. We will tell you really quickly if no, yeah, that's not going to work. But we'll also come out and help improve your processes. You've got the ideas, you're going to do these cool transactions with all of your companies. There's a great use case. Oh, I'm going to do use cases here in just a second. And then we have these starter kits. That's where Lexington comes into play. We're not required for you to go out and deploy Lexington. You can go out, it's aka.ms/deploylex. And it will spin up a Lexington environment for you. Now, if you don't have us help you, you're kind of on your own with the customization and whatever. But it's an open source template, sits on GitHub. But we can come out and help you customize that in a couple of days. And sometimes there's funding involved. We'll get our services guys involved. We like for folks to put skin in the game, otherwise there's no value in it. But these are the POCs and the hackathons that we work with. So, some interesting examples. Come back. Come back. WebJet. Not, okay, really? Stop. Okay, I'm going to talk real fast apparently. WebJet, Maersk, and I can't pronounce them. Thank you, Hapoalim. So let me tell you a little bit about what WebJet did. Maybe it will stop, maybe it won't. Escape. That'll do it. So let's go down here. All right, y'all can see that, right? Ish. So WebJet, anchoring travel bookings into the blockchain. Now the people that actually did this POC are the ones that are downstairs, so you can go and hit them up about this. So this was travel and transportation. Thousands of hotels and travel arrangements made every day, and the idea is to anchor this to a blockchain. Why and how? Because this stuff is fluid and it has to travel between like 50 different systems. Anybody familiar with Sabre? The thing that sits in a bunker outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma. It was written in the 1960s, still running. That's what gets our planes from point A to point B. Yeah, that thing. If anything screamed for a blockchain, that's one of them. So many interactions with external entities, from the people at the front desk selling you the ticket to the hotels.com to coordinating the travel schedule for the flight attendants, all of that stuff. Maersk. Now this is actually a hat tip to the people I've been making fun of earlier. They are going into production with our competitors, and it's already proving great results. The idea behind this is making customs, all that paperwork when one of those big-ass ships shows up at the port, make the paperwork go faster. Because up to this point, it's literally been on clipboards, and they fill it out one at a time. Now they're filling it out digitally before the ship arrives. It's anchored on the blockchain. They say, okay, is this valid? Yes, it's valid because you just compared the hashes. Go. So they're able to cut time down from the transportation and logistics phenomenally, like really, really impressive stuff. And then this third one on the financial side, trying to guarantee bank loans. Really, really cool stuff. Now, most of the banks in the United States, JP Morgan, are being a little skittish about blockchain. Why? Because this impacts their business model. They are seriously freaking out about this idea. Our friends in the Asia Pacific and the European areas are not nearly as skittish. They're more of an embrace and extend kind of guy. And that's going very, very well for them, guaranteeing financial transactions and backing them against the blockchain. These are the kinds of things that really get us excited. If you have an idea for your company that is like this, I would love, love, love to visit with you. Or not, if not me, one of the other 300 people working on this. The idea is very simple. Figure out what you want to do, try it, fail fast, don't spend a lot of money, a little, you got to have some skin in the game, but the technology is getting mature, and we really want you guys to be able to succeed in that manner. We have engineers that do the math, We have engineers that write the code. We have the Azure infrastructure to secure it. We got the whole stack. So come and talk to us down at the booth. And with that, I ran out of time. Isn't it fun how fast 45 minutes will go when you're having fun? Thank you guys very much. You've been a great audience.